first?
Of course.
I'm David Chatman. I am a vascular surgeon here at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, and this is my wife.
Yolanda McGriff-Chatman, GYN only. I practiced obstetrics and gynecology until 2007, and I've been gynecology only since then.
And we've basically been in this community for 25 years, 24 or so here at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. I was interested in medicine probably from high school on. We had an anatomy course in high school where we got to dissect fetal pigs, and I really took to it and enjoyed it, and had a substitute teacher whose brothers were all physicians, and she told me, you should really think about going to medical school and being a surgeon. And I was always good with math and science, and so after going to Vanderbilt, declared pre-medical major, ended up going to East Tennessee State for medical school, where one of my best buddies in the world, he and I had gone to high school together. We both went to East Tennessee State, and he actually knew Yolanda from elementary and junior high school. They went to school together. So that's where we met at East Tennessee State.
So I have wanted to be a doctor since I was 6. My dad was a physician. In fact, we came to Tennessee so we could go to medical school in Nashville, Meharry. And I was a Meharry brat, if you will. So when my dad went to make rounds of the hospital, I thought it was my job to go with him. So I wanted to be a doctor for a long, long time. I got to see what he did, and I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know what kind of physician I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted to be a doctor like my dad. My biggest role model ever.
My challenges as a black physician really were more apparent when I was in medical school than here. When I was in East Tennessee, there were several patients who didn't want to be seen by me, especially in the OBGYN rotation. And when asked why, they couldn't exactly articulate why. And I sort of understood what was going on, and acquiesced rather than cause a lot of a stink that would be problematic for everyone. But I never let it deter the education that I wanted to get.
I didn't have any problems in medical school being a black physician, and I really haven't encountered any since I've been here in town either. In fact, a lot of people don't know this, but I was the first African American physician at MMC, and it wasn't very overwhelming. I always felt like my partners were very accepting. In fact, Dr. Bradley, who is no longer with us, was one of the people that actually advocated for me coming here, and I'll be forever grateful for him for that, saying, hey, you might want to think about going to the clinic. One of the best decisions I've ever made. I've had a great practice here. It's been wonderful.
Black History Month has always been important to me because it was pretty early on in school that I recognized that every other month of the year, very little of what was taught about history involved black people. And I always knew there was more there because I had a dad who told me that you have to reach beyond the library at your in your curriculum and go to the public library and find out the other facts, because we've all been on the planet the same amount of time, and there's a lot of history that you don't know. The people who write history tend to be featured in history. And so when I had the opportunity to really recognize black history, my heroes always looked like me. Jackie Robinson was one of my heroes, Frank Robinson, Muhammad Ali. And I think it's very important for youths of any other group to have someone that they look to exemplify the positive traits that they aspire to achieve. And when you have that motivation, I think it's a lot easier when you're having a bad day or a bad semester to be able to rebound from that and utilize those times as challenges instead of barriers.
History Month is extremely important so that we know where we've been and how far we've come. And there's still some things that we can do as well, but we've come a long way. My parents remember when they couldn't go to certain stores, and I can give a good example. When I was a kid, I worked at a pizza place, and we would be able to bring leftover pizza home, and my parents were like, well, this is really good, and I was like, y'all act like y'all never eaten pizza before, and they're like, well, we really haven't. And I said, why? And they were like, well, we were coming up, if you went to a pizza place, you had to go around the back, and you couldn't go in and sit down and have pizza. And my mother's like, I'm not going around the back to eat pizza. She said, if I couldn't eat in a seat, I wasn't eating pizza. And I was like, okay, I get that. So again, things have changed dramatically. It's been wonderful to see. Since we've been here, I don't know if we did in medical school, but definitely since we've been here in the community, we have talked to both undergraduate students who are interested in medicine, and even some students who are in medical school throughout the years, to provide some guidance, how to improve your resume, how to get into medical school. A lot of people think that it's just about your grades and your MCAT scores, and while those are important, you have to have a personality too. I mean, you're going to be dealing with people.
The thing that I learned when I was at Vanderbilt was that as important as what you know is who you know. Being able to build relationships with people early on is very helpful. Great example, I actually pledged the same fraternity that her father pledged, and I met her father before I met her as part of the pledging process. And I knew he was a surgeon. I went to his office, I had a chance to meet him, and he remembered me actually later when we met and we were in medical school and we were dating. Those sorts of things have to happen, if for no other reason than you being able to walk up and put your hand on someone who looks like you and touch them and say, this person does what I want to do. He looks just like me. He can do it, so can I. America is the greatest country on this planet. And the reason it is because people from different faiths, different races, different countries, different continents have all adopted the ideal that we're going to work harder and do better and be more. And that's all people. That's not any one particular race or religion more than anybody else. And I think that we need to have that same equalitarian approach to celebrating each other's differences, just like we do our similarities.
Learning about what African Americans have contributed, to the United States, in terms of inventions and just culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, music, so many things wouldn't be here if not for African Americans. And so to, investigate some things during, the month of February about, African American history and contributions that that our forefathers, have made, I think, as David said, would open people up more, so that we're not so closed-minded.
Right.
We all want the same things. We want to be happy. We want to have our children be safe. No different from anybody else. And differences should be celebrated.